about to go live here. Actually, let's, Jeb, take 11 here. Let's go live.
Sure.
So tonight.
Oh yeah, take the episode 11. All right, I'm with you.
So this is Thursday, July
16th.
And
Chuck, you sound different tonight.
yeah, Chuck does sound different. You know why? Because this is a Chuck Talk, sans Chuck, but with an individual, Mr. Larry Meek. Larry is blessed us with his presence, shall we say, for a Chuck Talk, and I'm going to drive this conversation, and we're going to actually sort of make a past, present, future out of this, I've decided, Jeb. Okay. So we might call this Chuck Talk past, present, future, like 3 or 4, whatever it is. And the topic is going to be geeks.
I can get down with that.
All right, so Larry Meek, he did not mean to rhyme with geek, but we're going to rhyme with geek, is an expert on geek. And so I guess my first question for you, Larry, just to get the conversation rolling, is who was the first geek? When did geek happen? Like everyone out there, when I say the word geek, thinks of something in their mind, their geeky friend, that geeky guy, that geeky girl. You know, but like, when did geek become vernacular? Jeb, you might want to look that up too.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we think of geek now as like pop culture, or it's popular, and I don't really know a good.
When did you think you were a geek? Like, when did you like take the word geek and run with like proudly?
Probably college.
What was the geekiest stuff you liked in high school?
Probably stuff like Batman. I was a huge Batman the Animated Series fan. Because it's one of the best shows of all time.
Is that where like the Pow Kung Fu type?
No, that was that's the Adam West Batman. That's
okay,
a little bit different. The animated series was like the definitive for a lot of people at my age growing up, because it had great voice casting, great storytelling. It was some of the best Batman stories I've ever seen. I've ever been a part of in terms of experiencing. And they actually they set the standard for some things going forward for Batman, because Harley Quinn came out of Batman the Animated Series, and that's a huge character now in the whole DC universe.
But like, were you when you were in high school? Did you want to dress up as Batman and then feel kind of dorky that you couldn't do it?
The introvert side of me would not allow myself to do that. I never got that far into it to where it was I have to do the whole cosplay thing. Plus, cosplay didn't really get big until probably the past.
What's cosplay? That Comic Cons type stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where like people go and spend like $10,000 on a uniform.
Oh my gosh, they spend so much money on their costumes. It is an insane.
Oh, it's $1 trillion industry.
Yeah,
I don't know trillion, but it's big.
And it's not even Comic Cons anymore. Like, people just do that for Instagram and for social media. Like, you'll see stuff like that all the time. TikTok, people do videos of them putting on their makeup and it's just.
When did the word geek come in?
Yeah, so the history of the word geek itself comes from fool or freak, from Middle Low Geck, German Geck.
Okay.
And then in the 1950s is when like nerds, geeks, and dorks kind of, those kinds of terms came across, coined by Dr. Seuss actually in 1950.
Theodore Geisel.
He
was a Sig Ep. He was the same fraternity I was in.
Oh, you're Sig Ep.
Dartmouth, yeah.
Pi Cap.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Dartmouth, Sig Ep, like 1910s. Yeah, there's some the crazy stuff about Theodore. My kids really like Theodore Geisel, Dr. Seuss, and there's some stuff that we'll get into another podcast about, like, is he racist and all this other stuff, but whatever. Yeah. But all right, so I would have guessed the 50s. I would actually guess 50s, 60s, 70s.
I was thinking 70s.
Yeah, when geekium came about.
Yeah.
I don't think I definitely, admittedly, was an insecure person and definitely was a bully at times in middle school and high school. But I don't think I ever really targeted geeks. I don't think I was ever like, I'm going to be mean to a geek today.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever used that as like a derogatory. Do you find the word derogatory?
Nowadays, no. Because
did you ever find it derogatory?
I think so. I think there would have been, in high school, I think it would have been geek, nerd, or dork. And by the way, I differentiate those three terms. They're not all the same. Yeah.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
In my opinion, I think nerd is just smart.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know about
he's
dork,
nerdy,
but nerd is just like smart,
like bookie smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dork is like the socially awkward, like the
glasses
uncool,
falling off your nose,
kind of thing. Yeah, because a lot of these can overlap. You don't have to be exclusive to one.
You can
category.
be a geek and a dork,
yeah,
or a dork
exactly.
and a nerd.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
And you can be a part of all three of them. And then geek is, I think, more of you have a true fandom of something.
Fandom.
Yeah, because it's geeky. Like, you're geeky about something. You're just like
you geek
hardcore.
out on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And so like geeky, but like when it's like so back in like the 80s and 90s, geek was probably derogatory.
I mean, I probably would have seen it that way, but also there were a lot of insecurities that I dealt with that kind of stuff. More than, like,
Everyone has an insecurity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I tend to gear more towards like the people pleasing side. So there was a time where I would try to mold myself to fit in wherever it was. And I mean, I've kind of grown out of that a little bit. I just don't care anymore.
Yeah. That liberating.
With like Marvel, MCU, geek has become popular. Like it's
really.
good to be a geek.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, like one of the guys that works at the facility with us is super big into comic cons, and he's like, he wants me to go. Norm, he wants me to go as I forgot the guy's name. Bane. He wants me to dress up as Bane. He's like, you would look just like Bane. Yeah, I want to go as Bebop from like the Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
Yeah, I want to be a little Bebop, but I mean, I think you're right. I think it's sort of like the N-word in black culture where like they sort of took it and ran with it as pride. I think geeks sort of did the same thing. They're just like, all right, you're gonna call me a geek? Well, I'm proud to be a geek.
Yeah.
You know, rednecks did the same thing.
Oh yeah,
you
absolutely.
know?
I had a friend of mine in college. I don't know why she said this, but she said, "You're not a real geek," and like that offended me to be called not a geek. I'm like, what are you talking about? I love the same things you love. You can't. I wear my geek card with pride.
Exactly, my geek card with pride. No, it's just interesting because I definitely think now like people will say like I'm geeking out or I'm just a geek, you know, and they say it with like you said with pride. Oh, yeah. So that switch, when did that switch take place? Early 2000s?
Yeah, like I said, I was part of Pi Kappa Phi, and a lot of the brothers at that time that I was with, they were hardcore geeks, like comic books at the time. Halo, there's a lot of video games and comic books and movies and things like that.
I think Nintendo really sort of
Oh, absolutely.
moved the bar.
Yeah.
Atari, Nintendo.
Video games in general have just transformed the whole, because video games are these epics, like they are basically movies that you play now.
It's like I think the projection is like in 10 years from now, more people are going to watch the online finals of like these like killer games or whatever they're called, first person shooter games.
Yep, like Fortnite and all that.
Yeah. Then they're going to watch the World Cup. Like I mean, it's
already kind of already there.
Yeah. And now with the fucking coronavirus shit.
Oh yeah.
Like where like you have to be entertained like by a screen, and like my kids, don't really do that much screen time. And I saw some of my cousins who did do a lot of screen time, and they would play video games, and when they were allowed screen time, like to watch like YouTube, they would watch people playing the video games. And then my sons kind of gravitated towards that. Like my kids really do not watch that much screens. I would say like 3 to 5 hours a week. But when they do, they're often watching someone play like a first person race car game or something. So I was actually thinking about it, like they're talking about canceling college football. They're talking about canceling the NFL. Obviously, the NBA is trying to come back. And I was wondering is like, 100 years from now, 500 years from now, is this when geekdom is going to become the next like professional sport? Like are the Instagram hoes going to line up for the geeks? These guys making hundreds of millions of dollars playing online video games.
The NBA, each team has an NBA 2K club that they are gamers that play NBA 2K professionally that are sponsored by these teams.
Right, because they see the future.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's all like marketing is all about controlling eyeballs, right? Like you just want someone's attention so you can then sell them something they don't need. That's all marketing is. And coming from a guy who I dabble in marketing myself, like that's all you're fucking doing. And so if these, and guys, these people are rich. They have generational wealth for a reason. They're fucking smart. And if they see that it's going towards like you can watch, the Chicago Bulls play the Charlotte Hornets online and make money by selling ad space, they're going to do it. Yep. So I mean, I think that one of the other things that probably brought geekdom into cooldom is just money.
Oh yeah, there's tons of money. And like Joe was saying, DC and the MCU, especially Marvel, like. Disney.
Which one's bigger, DC or Marvel?
Well, in terms of the movie universe, I'd go Marvel because they've got...
Who's Marvel? Name those characters.
Captain America, Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor. It's like, I'm getting to see like Thor on the big screen. That is just awesome.
And that was like you would just like lay in bed and like read these comic books and like imagine these wars.
I mean, you
Like,
had,
I've just never been into this shit. I'm just also not into, like, I'm into weird shit.
no, I mean, we all are. You geek about something, I geek about something, Jeb geeks out about something. We all have our geeky thing, and that's what makes.
But like, would you just like lay in bed at night, just being like, "Wow, this is like, Thor threw a lightning bolt at fucking, I don't know, Iron," like, and just like sort of imagine it in your head?
Well, I mean, with comic books, you had the pictures right there,
right.
but I mean, they were stills, like they were.
But would you play it out in your head?
I don't think I would.
You just sort of read
it. Yeah, I would read it, and like you would get these awesome art, like splash pages that would cover both sides of the page when like some kind of big battle is going on or whatever. And it's like, man, that's really cool. That's why with Avengers, the most recent one, Endgame, when they had the big battle at the end, that was like awesome for comic book fans because it was seeing a splash page come to life.
Right, yeah.
And that was,
I guess that was kind of my point. Like, did you ever visualize it that way? Like my oldest son, I definitely think is on the path to geekdom, and I say that in like obviously in an admiring way. I hope he wears his geek card or carries his geek card proudly, like Jeb 5000 does. But I can see him playing out things in his head, especially cars.
I did find a little information on esports. I thought it was interesting. By the late 2010s, it was estimated that a total audience of esports would grow to 454 million viewers, with revenue increasing to over $1 billion.
Yeah, and so, but that's like, I mean, that's a J curve exponential growth, right? And now, like, you have things like, I don't really buy equities. Equities is like stock market for everyone who doesn't understand the word equity. I don't buy equities. I don't play that game because I don't trust people. I rather just invest in myself. But I can tell you right now, if I were to buy equities, I'd be buying in anything that is geekdom, Whether it's a comic book series, a video gaming console, a way to advertise why people watch video gaming consoles. I mean, I think that like this could be like, like I said, looking back on it, this is the turning point where we stop going to stadiums and we have these, cylinders that we put in our floor and we can see 3D action figures and they can be fighting in your house. I don't fucking know where it's going,
I mean, well, video games are, I think, heading in some
Do you play still?
Do I play what?
Do you play video games still?
A little bit, not as much as I used to. I typically.
Were you ever like ranked in the world?
No, I'm not that good at.
Or do you have friends that are like fucking like top 500 at first person shooter games and stuff?
I have some friends that they stream Fortnite and.
Do they make money?
No, they're very like we kind of started doing the streaming stuff together a little bit, and I kind of help them get some of their equipment and all that kind of stuff, and I mean they are exponentially better than I am.
How do you get good at Fortnite?
Just playing it. Like you have to play it constantly, steadily, and I think there's also.
Does the game evolve?
Sort of.
Is there artificial intelligence in the software to allow the game to evolve?
No, I mean if it's going to evolve, it's going to be done by programmers,
Okay.
by developers.
So it hasn't gotten there yet, where artificial intelligence is in the software.
That
you're aware of.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I think that there's some AI in all video games because you can't have. I think it probably tends more towards single player games where you have to interact within a world. Like you think like Last of Us or
because
Uncharted.
the software will evolve as humans put in data.
Yeah,
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
but games like Fortnite, where it's so dependent on playing one versus everybody else, I tend to think AI probably doesn't play a whole lot into that. There's a little bit because a little bit I know about Fortnite. Like you start off in this zone, and it starts to shrink as time progresses until all the players who's left have to be within close proximity, so you can't hide from anybody. And so it gets to these epic like 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 or whatever battles at the end of the whatever it is.
See, I stopped playing video games with like Mario Kart, so I'm like a little lost, but I got it.
SNES Mario Kart, the Super Nintendo.
I was Yoshi. I used to love being Yoshi. He was such a character.
Super Nintendo Mario Kart.
I'm 41, so I grew up with Atari, like Frogger, Asteroids, and I played that when I was like, this is like 84, 85, 86. Then Nintendo came out probably 87, 88. And I had a Nintendo for a little while, like Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. Those are the games that came on the console. And then around high school time for me, which would have been like elementary for you, it was Super Mario, Super Nintendo, just Super Nintendo, and that was like Mario Kart and stuff. And then when I got to college, there was a game. It was like the only game I ever played in college, and the last time I ever played was like the 007, the James Bond.
On N64, yep.
Yeah, that on GoldenEye. That's what it's called. Yeah.
I think that game changed a lot for the gaming industry because
Yeah.
you saw a lot of first-person shooters come out.
Do you think that? Well, one thing is we haven't had any school shootings in the U.S.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. That's good. That's part of the new normal. But do you think first-person shooter games lead to people actually shooting?
No, I actually don't think. I don't think video games. I think it's an easy out for a lot of politicians and people. They don't want to take responsibility for decisions that have been made, and so it's easy to put the blame on something that has. I grew up. My dad, he owned his own business working on arcade games.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was destined for gaming.
Do you have a bunch of arcade games?
No, when I eventually kind of get my another house, I think I'm gonna get my dad to build me a cabinet with like
10 of the
oh
most,
yeah, all the games I
Mortal
wanted.
Kombat, all the eclectic ones, or all the
Royal Rumble and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all the things I grew up playing.
Do you go to the Boxcar downtown Raleigh?
I have been. I've not been in a while, but it is. Oh, it reminds me of my dad's shop where he would work on the game.
Boxcar, guys, is an arcade bar.
Yes, is a really cool spot. And I keep telling my dad, you should go ahead and retire and do this because he sold his company to somebody else. He's been working there for 30 years. But I was like, you could make some money because people my age who grew up doing this are the ones making money and they want these things.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could build cabinets and make a decent amount of money because people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can also...
Cabinets is the console.
Right.
Where the game goes.
What you see in arcades.
Yeah.
And you can put boards or emulators within those cabinets.
To make it look like an original.
Yeah, because you put 10,000 games on a little CPU for the thing and you'll be playing games for the rest of your life.
But back to you don't think school shooters?
No, I've never thought that.
Even if they played video games a lot.
Yeah,
you still don't think the video game had. You cannot sit here and say it had no influence. You can say it wasn't a major influence. But some guys used to like carrying around like in first person a fucking AR, like blowing off dragons' heads or whatever, and then he goes and blows up a school. You can't sit here and say that it didn't have some influence.
I tend to not think.
I mean, it's okay if you do. I'm not mad at you.
Oh no, that's fine. I don't get offended with this stuff. So everybody has their own opinion on things.
I agree that there's, as we often say on the show, two things can be true at once.
Absolutely.
I think there's probably deeper seated issues that are causing him to, and I don't think it's the gun's fault either.
No.
But yeah, I mean.
If anything,
they have violent games in Germany and Norway, and they don't go shoot anybody
right?
up.
I would say that the people who play like those super violent games are like your least farthest thing from a school shooter. I don't see them as violent at all. Like they're trying to get out aggressions or something. I don't see it as like violent though.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just that's always one of the like you said, it's one of the scapegoats of politicians. And I think it just comes down to we don't invest in mental health in the United States.
Exactly. I tend to think that was where I was going to go next, was the whole mental health thing, because there's a lot of stuff that you could be the best parent in the world and you're going to mess your kid up in some way, and that's not a knock on parenting. I'm not a parent. I understand that, but the way that I've seen how my parents had certain impacts on my psyche, they love me and I had a good.
How many siblings do you have?
I've got a younger sister.
Are you all similar at all?
Not really. We get along fine because we live together. So I'm renting from her in her house, so we get along fine. And I guess I will say I see some similarities in terms of how we respond to certain things, and I think we both trend more towards on the introvert side of the scale than we are extroverted.
Are your parents introverted?
No, I tend to think a little maybe on the opposite side of that.
Mm-hmm.
They could talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I guess they're not overly outgoing, but they can carry a conversation.
Right.
I guess my sister and I can kind of do the same thing. We also will have random people come up and just start talking to us for hours and tell us their whole life story.
Right. My dad's that way. My dad just gets this look, and I guess I think that there's so much innate communication that goes on, and if someone feels comfortable with someone's facial cues and features, And they're like, oh, I can trust this individual. They're just gonna like pour out their heart, soul, and like whatever that is, they're just gonna do that.
Oh yeah, because everybody needs someone to talk to. Everybody.
Oh, that's one of the I think the biggest shames what's going on with coronavirus right now is we're like killing like isolation. It's just not that. It's like we're demonizing socialization, and that's one of the things that scares me is the demonization of, or just the anxiety driven by society for socializing. Like when you guys came over to my house right before this podcast, I had a couple from New York. They were like 70 years old. My parents were 70 years old. And we were socializing, and my dad looked so incredibly happy. And I called him on the phone a couple days ago. I was like, Dad, we usually have dinner together Thursdays. Is it okay if we do it at the house this time? And is it okay if other people come? And my dad's like, I just want to talk to somebody. And he's like, I was like, well, they're coming from New York, Dad, and that's a hot spot, and well, whatever. And he's like, I don't give a shit. And he's just like, and he just looked so genuinely happy with a whiskey in his hand, and just like, he's like, this is the first drink I've had in like months, and he's just been like locked in his house, and I'm like, that's like, him getting the coronavirus could end poorly, but him locking himself in the house for 6 months could also end poorly.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Like one is a maybe, the other is a definitely end poorly.
Yeah, exactly. One could possibly end poorly, the other is definite. And that's another thing too that I was talking about with my brother this morning. Chuck Talks. Is it's all calculated risk, right? It's just like, yes, okay, I'm 41 years old. I have maybe like slightly elevated blood pressure. Probably could lose like 15, 20 pounds. But I'm like, I don't smoke. I exercise regularly. I eat very healthy. It's like I probably might, realistically, when the data comes out, I'm probably like at 1 in like a 5,000, 1 in 10,000 chance of having a severe adverse reaction. And so I look at that as one option. And the other option is I don't socialize. I don't socialize my children. I give them a massive amount of anxiety. I don't work. I ruin my business, and I hide in my home. And that is going like that's not a 1 in 5,000 chance to ruin my life or make my life difficult. That's a 1 in 1 chance to make my life difficult. So it's like I have to sort of balance these things.
Yeah.
I have to balance them for my kids, and I totally get too. Well, it's not just about you; it's about your parents. Like my parents have comorbidities, they have age, etc. I get that, but I think you can balance all of these things. I don't know. What do you think?
So actually, I have a question for you, Larry.
Okay.
So me and Larry do a D&D stream together, and we recently
What's D&D?
Dungeons and Dragons. And we recently switched over to a Zoom format.
Yes.
So I was wondering if you could enlighten us a little bit about that.
So once the state actually issued, or I think we did it when Raleigh actually instituted the whole like quarantine thing where you couldn't go out and
lockdown.
Yeah, the whole lockdown thing. And we're like, well, we can't meet in person anymore, so we have to find an alternative method to do that. And so when
you did Dungeons and Dragons in person,
we would meet in person. Yeah, at the beginning of when we started the stream, which was back in January, we would meet in person, sit around the table, do the whole thing. And we switched to Zoom when the whole lockdown happened, and we talked recently about going back to try the meeting in person, but I mean, we've had one of our players has talked about, since we're kind of somewhat in the public eye because we're on camera and we're putting ourselves out in front of the public, we should kind of set an example of following the rules essentially. And one of our other players, I think some of his direct family have some proclivities, as you said, pre-existing conditions that would make them a little bit more vulnerable. Yeah. So, and to respect him and respect all of it, yeah, because for me, I love meeting in person. It's so much fun to actually get to be around the people. But I'm fine doing Zoom. It's a substitute. I understand it's not a permanent substitute. It's something that's there for right now, and I'm fine with it. And since I'm not a dictator here, I'm not going to know we're just going to meet in person and screw the rules. Okay, if you guys aren't feeling safe, we won't meet. That's fine. I'm not so strongly opinionated about that to where I'm going to.
It's the same with me and masks. Like, I'm a huge libertarian, but I don't see it as a government issue. I just don't see it. See it as just like respecting the elderly.
Yeah.
Like, until all my libertarian brothers and sisters out there, like, grow the fuck up. I'll call a spade, and like I have some libertarian friends. Like, I'm not wearing a goddamn mask. I'm like, the fuck you aren't. I'm gonna fucking put it on your goddamn face and choke you out with it. Like, yes, you are. Like, it's not about. It's just basically one thing I think about like libertarian stance is like you just believe in science.
Yeah.
You just believe in facts.
Common sense.
Common sense.
And just respect. Like I think it's one of the biggest libertarian things is respect for other people. Like I don't think that a lot of at this point Democrats or Republicans in terms of like the party.
Who are you gonna vote for?
Probably,
Gary Johnson.
Oh Lord, no! I wanted so badly for him to win me over, and every time he opened his mouth, I'm like, nope. I'm probably gonna vote for what's her name, Jorgensen. I forget the libertarian candidate. I just like found out about her like a week ago, so I'm still looking into it. But
I've thought about getting more involved in the Libertarian Party. I mean, it's just so funny, right? Because I do want to run for political office one day, and it's just so funny to me. It's just like I'm going to run for political office to do nothing. Like I mean, that's sort of like what like the Libertarian threshold. Like vote for me, I'm going to do nothing for you. You know, like it's just it's a weird paradigm on how you would say it. But I see more and more people coming over to libertarianism, but they just don't want to admit that that's what it is. Like I guess the word's kind of tainted.
Mm-hmm. Well, they keep saying, "Well, we can change whatever political party system we're in." I'm like, no, you can't. Those two, to me, Republicans and Democrats are two sides of the same coin, and they're fighting over this.
You're gonna love this. I had a friend, may rest in peace. He basically told me one time, and I'll never forget it. Watching Republicans and Democrats sit around and debate is like watching the CEO of McDonald's and Hardee's debate over who has healthier food.
Yes, I really like that.
And if the listener out there can't understand what that means, you're eating that shit.
Yeah. You falling for it.
Yeah, you falling for it.
And I've seen friends on like social media say that they're not true Democrats. That was just the party that most aligned with where they were going, and they're trying to change that party. Typically, they're trying to get it.
I think my dad
more
says
left.
that same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and our parents are completely different because they grew up in a world where you could actually trust the news.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that on the show.
Yeah,
Walter Cronkite is gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like we look at the news now, like okay.
It's not even news anymore. It's like opinion. Blabber.
And it's all trying to. It's marketing.
Yeah.
They are trying to sell a story.
They're trying to sell eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly. And social media is the exact same way because you will always see people who have an opinion.
Yeah.
And they will put videos out that support that opinion and they have a narrative they're going for.
Yeah, it's just what's it called? The bias, the confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is, and I think that. I've noticed like I have more and more converts, and most of my converts are very socially liberal people, basically social issues, and then they're sort of aging and they're seeing the maturity, and they don't want to align themselves with the Republican Party, but they're also seeing fiscal responsibility, and like socially I align myself with the Democratic Party, fiscally I align myself with the traditional Republican Party.
Yes.
The thing about like fiscal responsibility is basically whoever doesn't have the checkbook is fiscally responsible. Whoever has a checkbook is writing checks for whatever the fuck they believe in.
Yep.
Whether that's the military-industrial complex or a social safety network. Mm-hmm. And so there's no such thing as fiscal responsibility. There's being the minority party. Mm-hmm. And so I agree. And like my dad is like so mad at me. He's like, if you vote for someone other than Joe Biden, you might as well vote for Donald Trump. And I'm like, Dad, as long as we give into this bi-party system, we're never going to have a third party. He's like, well, we need a third party. I'm like, thank you, Dad. We need a third party. But it can't be this election. But every election, that's the same fucking argument.
The same thing you hear every time.
Okay, we'll do that next election. Next election. I mean, it was fucking Ralph Nader in 2000. It was Gary Johnson in 8 and 12. I mean, it's just always it's the next election we'll do this.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think is the most fucked up is how they manage the debates, right? Democrats and Republicans. That's obviously the eyeballs, and that's when things really get started. And I'm actually interested to see how they do debates this year. But there's a debate committee that basically boxes everybody else out. Like, I swear to God, if you were to put me on stage with Joe Biden and Donald Trump and allow me to debate them for 2 hours, I would go from not polling to polling at 40% in an hour. Just get me on the stage. Mm-hmm. Just get me the fuck on the stage, and I will destroy these guys. But their argument is very simple. If I don't win, at least you're going to win.
Yeah.
That's who these fuckheads are. They won't put me on stage. They won't put anyone else on stage because they're terrified of what's going to happen.
They don't want a true voice of America. Like everything has been so and I have not looked into this. This is not like I deep dive into anything, but the system is so set up
for just those two.
Well, just in terms of society in general, I think the system is really set up for a certain group, and that's
well, the group is the political elite of those two parties.
Exactly, and because people are, capitalism doesn't work. I'm like, we haven't been a capitalist country in God knows how long because we are.
And the good parts of it were spurred by capitalism. If you go back,
absolutely.
Dude, don't even get me started on like the John Locke Treaty. It treats you, man, like 1765, I think. We evolved more in 300 years than we did in the previous 30,000.
Mm-hmm.
We liberated slavery.
Mm-hmm.
We brought women rights to vote. We had more technological advancements for the betterment of life. Because prior to that, we were a socialistic, oligarchical, like monarchical system for 30,000 years. And shit did not advance at all.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of gone back to that oligarchy. And there's another, I'm drawing a blank on what the other...
Monarchical?
No, I think it starts with a P, and I'm just drawing a complete blank.
Patriarchal?
It might be patriarchal. Like that's where our...
That's like the more like maternal, paternal...
Maybe it's not patriarchal. It's something where like the government and the free market, I'm using quotation marks there, are so embedded with each other. Say what?
Bunny ears.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're so in bed with each other.
It's so subsidized.
Yeah. And it's just... when you have
the market picks
special
winners and
interest
losers.
groups...
Yeah, the market... I just saw like one of the things I sent a screenshot to... We have a Chuck Talk WhatsApp group basically where we can text each other. And I sent a screenshot of just how the CDC is releasing that Moderna Inc. corporation making a vaccine has really promising results. And it's just like they're setting it up for we're going to approve this company's vaccine. They're going to get the patent. Because there's like probably 10 different people who are all going to arrive to the same vaccine. There's probably going to be this year, November, December at 30 to 40% accuracy. But everyone's going to take the fucking placebo bait of it. And listen, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I believe in science. I do think, I do believe, I'm a libertarian and I believe in science. But I also think that they're, like you're saying, this is just a complete setup by the CDC and their cronyism to sell a solution of whoever they choose to be the winner. Period. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
There's no other way to say it because that's just a fact.
Did you mean parliamentary?
No, not parliamentary. I have to look it up.
Don't worry about it.
I'm drawing a blank on it. It's hard for me to trust any organization.
Guys, it's like oligarchical is like when the people who have the money just put politicians in power in order to control them.
Yes.
So you just have more of a puppet state. You usually think of an oligarchical government in Latin America. But an oligarchical government here can be like Jeff Bezos controls the Washington Post.
Plutarchy.
Yeah, plutocracy. Plutocracy, yeah. You know, you never have real change because those who have everything to gain from real change have none of the power, and those who have everything to lose from real change have all the power. You know, and it's why, you know, you don't ever really have... I mean, we've had real change thanks to capitalism. And I would say some of the bigger moments of real change, like obviously freeing the slaves and the proclamation of 1861, that was a real change, comes from John Locke saying that all men and all markets are free. It just took a couple hundred years to come to a reality.
Yeah.
No, it was 100 years to come to a reality. But like we've had Machiavellian style change, but then there's also the whip back to that change. Like Donald Trump is the epitome of a social black liberal from Chicago one. Well, we're gonna get a fucking Donald Trump, and we're probably gonna have some whip back to that, which is Joe Biden. You know, who's gonna win? Who do you think?
Oof. You know,
I think Trump's still gonna win. Everyone's like, "You're crazy." He's got
actually
like 30% approval. Steverdamus called it last episode. He calls it now. The dude's gonna win.
I tend to think so because the Democratic Party's answer to an old rich white guy is an old rich white guy.
Yeah.
Like Joe Biden is not different than Donald Trump. I don't care what people say; he's not different from not enough to warrant him as like the opposing.
We pointed
force.
out one of the podcasts that Joe Biden literally was born closer to this time of the Civil War than he is to modern time. Like just like put that in your pipe and smoke it for a second. Like it's just weird. And I mean, I also think that angry white people are still the ones who vote.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're the ones who traditionally. It's just like it's ingrained in our culture, being an angry white guy from time to time myself, that we go vote. And I think that a lot of minorities still don't expect that, or it's not culturally. It is what I don't want to get into that argument. It is what that is, but I still think he's going to win. I think that there's going to be such a blowback to whether you think the coronavirus was an overreaction or it was apocalyptic. Everyone knows where I tend to lean, which is there was an overreaction. That doesn't mean I don't think it's dangerous. It just means I think there's an overreaction. I think you're going to have a lot of angry people who don't have jobs, and Donald Trump's going to be able to say, "See, I told you so."
Yeah.
You know.
That's how politics works. It's setting. It's always setting up for the next election. Once they get elected, it's a 4-year setup for the next election until they're going out of office. Like then they start supporting the person that they're like, okay, this is the next one we're going to try to get into office. It is such a people talk about term limits on and I'm like that is I want that, I really do, but it doesn't work if you're not fixing the main problem, which is you've got this two-party system, and once the term limit's up for that politician, they'll just prop the next person up, and then it's basically continue on the process. It's not. There's no true like we're switching over to somebody else. It's just continuing.
Yeah, we
on
talked
the whole
about
thing.
that problem. The other solution is like sunset provisions, where all laws expire and you have to renew the law, and it's not 51-49. It's like 70-30. If not, it's like 50 to 70% of the population says something. It's a suggestion. So right now, for example, I don't even know if 50% of the population would vote to criminalize pot. Perfect example. So let's say the pot laws expired and we had to vote as a society. Let's say that 51% of the populace still believes that pot should be criminalized. It turns into a suggestion that you shouldn't smoke pot. Our society believes you shouldn't smoke pot and you can't do it in public places if it's a suggestion. If 70% of the people said, no, let's criminalize this, then it's a law. That's my idea. So there's 3 ideas: term limits, sunset provisions, all laws expire, and then have 2 levels of majority. Because when you say 51%, you're only 1% away from the other side being the majority.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
not a bad idea.
So it's just that's another thing too. We talked a lot about. I think you'll probably have an opinion on this. Is just the absolutism that has come about in our society, where it's just like when I say the word absolutism, like what do you hear?
Well, I'm gonna bring geek into this just for a second.
Geek it out.
I think of Star Wars and Sith Lords. Only Sith Lords deal in absolutes.
Fill me in on that. I don't get that. I don't get that at all.
if you're not a Star Wars fan, Star Wars, they have the Jedi, which are the good guys, and the Sith, which are the bad guys. And in the prequel trilogy, which most everyone hates, the true Star Wars fans don't like them.
That's like Return of the Jedi and stuff.
That's Phantom Menace.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, and then oh my gosh,
Return of the Sith.
Yes, Return of the Sith. I had drawn a blank on the name.
So Sith are bad people.
Yes, and one of the lines
Darth Vader, right?
Yeah,
Darth
he's
Vader's
a Sith. Yeah, one of the lines that a Jedi says to a Sith is that, or a burgeoning Sith, because it's right. The prequel trilogy deals with Darth Vader becoming Darth Vader, essentially. And so he's talking to the person that's about to become Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, and he says, only the Sith deal in absolutes. Because Anakin says...
That's a line in the movie?
Yeah, and Anakin just said, you're either with me or against me. Like, there's no in between. Yeah. And so...
George Bush started that.
Yeah.
Donald Trump carries it on.
We all do.
Barack Obama does the same fucking thing.
Exactly. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
That really has become what society is. We deal in absolutes.
Yeah.
You either have to completely agree with this whole thing, whether you actually agree with everything or not.
But this is why we so desperately need a third party.
Exactly.
Because then I would honestly say we need a 4th and a 5th and a 6th. Oh, yeah. But if just with a third party, then you start playing like the pod and the shell game, where it's like, well, okay, I'll take a little bit of this platform and a little bit of this platform. Now I get 70% of y'all's vote. Then that forces them to all mold theirs. But like when you're in a black and white state of affair, no pun intended, it's literally just like you're either with Donald or against Donald.
Yes.
And I said this, like I say it all the time, like I don't like him as a human being, but I agree with him. We need to open schools back up.
Yeah,
there's an example.
I'm kind of with you on this. Like, I don't like him as a person, but I think that some of the things that he's done have been good.
Yes.
Just like I would say with Barack Obama, I didn't necessarily like him, but some of the stuff he did was good.
I really liked Barack as a person.
Oh, absolutely charismatic.
Yeah,
my
dude,
gosh.
I liked him a lot. Like, as much as I disliked Donald, I liked Barack.
Yes.
As much as I disliked a lot of Barack's policies, I liked some of Donald's policies. But I don't see myself ever voting for Donald Trump. Like, there is no doubt in my mind.
No.
I will never pull a lever for him. But I also just don't see myself voting for Joe Biden.
Nope.
And so, well, you're the reason. I voted for Gary Johnson in the last election. It's like you're the one who got us Donald Trump. You should have voted for Hillary. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No. You're the reason we only have these two choices. If
Yes.
you really want to get peel back the layer of the fucking onion.
I mean, we are exactly in the position that we deserve to be in as a country because we've gotten to this point.
Yes.
I don't think that there's any way around it. We
There's
deserve
nothing
this.
more than Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are nothing more than a reflection of who we are as a culture.
Yes. Yep.
Entitled, braggadocious, pompous,
Yep.
contemptful, arrogant, and all those listening, who did I just describe? Half of you are going to say I described Donald Trump, and the other half are going to say I described Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So guess who both those words pertain to? Both those motherfuckers.
Yes.
You know? And so it's just like, I don't know. I think that the solution is a third party. Like, when term limits are the solution. I agree. Sunset
Part of the
provisions in
solution,
law.
yeah.
Yes, I agree. But I always use the analogy on the show. Like, if you walk into your home, and this is actually a question I've asked in an interview, and your house is flooding, what's the first thing you do? And anyone who says they start cleaning, they don't get the job. Because the first thing you need to fucking do is find the source of the flood.
Yes.
And when we look at whatever the issue may be in our society, we need to look at the source of the flood. And every time I look at the source of the flood, it's a bi-party system.
Mm-hmm.
Every single fucking time. Every time.
Yep. I tend to agree with that.
You're listening to PPF. Back to the show.
So, are geeks libertarians?
It's tough to. I think it spans.
Mostly Democrats.
I think it spans. I don't think it's. I think you probably will find more, probably on the Democratic side, but I think you'll find libertarians and even conservative/Republicans or whatever that.
Because the only way I think you're really going to get a third party movement is you're going to get a third party culture.
Yeah.
You're going to need the musicians, the jocks, and the geeks to all get on the same page. And
yeah, celebrities are they're it's just not the ones to follow with this. Yeah, I love what celebrities bring to the culture and and to society, but I'm not looking to them say, okay, who are they endorsing? That's who I need to win. That's who I need to go for. I don't care.
But the only thing that they do is they get a name in front of your eyes.
Yes.
And that's the whole point of I was talking about the debates earlier. These motherfuckers are so religious about, okay, it's okay if the Republicans win, it's okay if the Democrats win. We're just not letting anyone else mess with our power. So they're willing to accept that they won't have power for 4 years.
Yes.
What they're not willing to accept is they won't have it forever.
Yes.
And that's what you see, is you see this, what's the name of the guy in Lord of the Rings? The
Sauron? Or
the really evil one?
are you talking about the Christopher Lee's character?
Saruman.
Is he the really, really evil one?
Well, Sauron is
the guy who just loves everything.
Oh, Gollum.
Gollum.
Yeah, Gollum. Yeah.
They're Gollum. The
Yeah.
politicians, the parties.
They've got their precious, and they're going to hold on to it. And
At
do
all
everything.
costs.
Yep.
And the only thing they would ever do is give it to another Gollum. You know, I got some geekness in me, right?
Yeah, nice.
I mean, yeah, even when Frodo had the ring, Gollum willingly followed him around until he saw his opportunity to get it back.
Yeah.
And it wound up costing him his life, but yeah.
I mean, and there will one day be a society where Democrats and Republicans' power fade. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, it's in our lifetime.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, right. But I just don't. It's just such an uphill battle. And I was hoping that Bloomberg would fight it, but I think every 4 years there's just a person who's going to be like, oh, well, we'll have to wait 4 more years.
Mm-hmm.
There's too much at stake this election.
Yeah, that defeatist attitude is.
Well, because
Yeah.
I actually had a Democratic candidate I liked. Again, I didn't dig too much into her policies or anything, but I liked the way she presented herself.
Who?
Tulsi Gabbard.
You liked her from Hawaii?
For one, she was the exact opposite of Donald Trump in terms of just the way she presented herself.
Yeah.
She seemed to have it together in a way that I was like, I could see her as a leader.
Yeah.
And that's it may not always be the first thing I look for, but it's something that just struck me. It's like she actually strikes me as being, kind of a leader. And I didn't. She dropped out before I even really had a chance to dig into.
Couldn't get any money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think she ruffled. I think that also helped that she ruffled a lot of Democratic feathers because she was probably a bit more. I honestly say she's probably a bit more on the libertarian side.
Yeah.
And some of the way she operated.
I definitely remember she also had some big issues. She made some decision. I forgot what it was. That was the Democrats didn't really like.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
It's the whole absolutism. You have to make you have to do everything along the party line. If you do one thing that's not on the party line, we're going to shun you.
Blackball you.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean that's just why I don't like. And they both do it, right? Both parties.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
The old adage that everyone's terrified of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. You bet they are, because he's going to primary every single one who doesn't toe the party line.
Mm-hmm.
I think Joe Biden's going to, if Donald Trump wins, it's going to be so foobarred.
Mm-hmm.
If Joe Biden wins, it's going to be so foobarred. And so there's going to be a path for a racehorse to come into it, but it just takes so much money to get the eyeballs on you. And then the reason like Donald won one of the reasons he won is he was just very good at getting eyeballs on him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he is great at self-promotion. I will give him that all day long. He is one of the best self-promoters I've ever seen.
Yeah, when I told Joe last podcast, I told him, I was like, yeah, he'll hit you and make you think it's your idea.
Yeah.
Because he just repeats it enough. He just repeats a lie enough till it becomes the truth. It's amazing. It's like, in a way, I never thought I'd say these words. It's admirable.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, it's almost admiring, like, wow, like unbelievable.
Yeah, it is impressive.
I may have found what happened with Tulsi Gabbard.
If you say it, it'll trigger my memory.
She until 2004, she voted and lobbied against same-sex marriage.
That's what it was, yeah.
But she apologized for it. What they're saying, and then she apologized again after launching her campaign in 2019. But she changed her mind in 2004.
Well, that's another thing that I thought was very interesting about politics is you're not allowed to flip flop.
Yeah.
Well, no, aren't you supposed to change your mind if you thought that your old self
you grow as a person?
You grow as a person, yeah. There's nothing wrong with flip flopping.
There's a whole thing for me. Society doesn't let you make mistakes anymore. You don't get to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. It's just it's just I remember John Kerry in 2004 was eviscerated for being a flip flopper on the Iraq War vote. And he was just like, but I don't get it. I made a mistake, and now I don't think we should be in the Iraq War. I would like to end it. And it was just demonizing him. And that was also the absolutism where basically Dick Cheney said, if you vote for a Democrat, you might as well be voting for the Taliban. And it's just it's just how are we drawing these parallels as a culture? And that's why I just think I just wouldn't be successful as a politician. I could not do that to another human being. There's no way Dick Cheney truly believes that John Kerry wants the Taliban to win. There's just no but he'll say it.
Oh, absolutely.
But he'll say it.
Yeah, because it gives him more power, more.
Yeah, and so that's the whole thing. There's just no way. There's just he'll just lie through his teeth just to get his point across, and then just go home and look himself in the mirror and shave. And I'm like, how can you do that?
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. So let's talk geek in the future. Do you think geeks are going to be the largest, most powerful? Because geeks generally are middle class and above. Is that a true statement?
I would say so. Yeah. Honestly these days, what is middle class? I would go as far as lower middle class to, but geek it's becoming such a broad term that. It's so cross whatever with pop culture. Geek and pop culture are almost one and the same. And pop culture is.
Do you like K-pop?
Everything. I think I've heard a little bit of it. It's not really my thing.
I just feel I had to ask that question. He said the word pop. That's really
and that's another geek. I think that's another geeky thing because geek is such a broad term.
Yeah,
it can cover so many things So I think that at some point, probably everybody will, or close to everybody will, self-proclaim themselves
What
as
percentage?
a geek.
Like, hey, so if I went out, they've probably done this study. If I went out and I went to the general populace and I found 1,003 random people, so my statistical accuracy was plus or minus like 3 to 4%, and I asked them, "Do you associate with being a geek?" Just yes or no. What percentage of the population would say yes?
I feel it would probably.
Like, what would you answer that question?
I'd answer yes.
Jeb?
Oh, yes. 17% self-identify as geeks.
In 2011?
Yeah.
But I bet you it's one of the fastest growing cultural cultural associations. Like, I bet you now it's probably 22 or 20. Like, I would have guessed 20% would have been my guess. Now, I think if you were to change the question, like, do you like
That's
geeky
true.
things?
That's true. Because I guess actually saying the word that I am a geek, or saying that I am a geek. Yes, instead of I like geeky things, which to me is you're saying the same thing. But
I've definitely said a few times, like, I'm such a dork,
Yeah.
you know, and like I say I'll geek out on that.
yes,
You know, like, I geek out on martial arts. Like, I love martial arts, and so I geek out on martial arts. I geek out on nutrition. I love like talking about nutrition. And so I'm geeky in that. But like when I think of a geek, I think of someone, like, no offense, like, I think it's now lost any negative connotation. Is like you guys, like, being able to quote Star Wars and tell me who the characters were, and like I don't really watch TV. I would definitely most people would, I'd say I was a jock, I guess would be like how I would be described. But in college, like, I played a couple of years of college football, and the football team called me a hippie, and the biology club called me a jock, and my fraternity guys called me a jock or a hippie. And so I was just kind of like, depending on which group I was with, they would always identify me as a different group.
yeah.
And so, and I always wore that as a badge of honor. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be you might be at 25-30% of the population thinks they're a geek now, especially because of all the online shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, you would have to think with all this, like, social distancing, isolation, quarantining, whatever you want to call it, over the last 4 months, that more people watched geeky things than in the previous years combined. Or rewatched geeky things.
All you had access to was like Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that, and then streamers on Twitch, Mixer before, now it's going away, and YouTube. Like, that's all you had. Like, you couldn't go to the theaters. You couldn't, like, and you saw companies starting to put out movies on digital
That's
form.
pretty smart.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea. I mean, I grew up going to theaters. I love going to a theater.
Getting the popcorn and the soda, and putting your feet up. Oh,
and especially with theaters with the recliners and all.
Yeah, and
oh
the
my
AC.
gosh! And you're kind of spread out from people because of the recliners.
Have they opened theaters back up yet?
No, it was. I think it was supposed to be part of Phase 3, and so we'll see what, I guess, next week or whatever.
Well, all hell's gonna break loose when they open schools back up.
Oh yeah.
Like my wife and I are talking about, like, we don't know what we're gonna do. Like, we want our kids to go back to school, but we're afraid school's going to be shut down if, like, the janitor's cat tests positive, and there's going to be like, and I told my wife, and I don't want it to happen, but I know what's going to fucking happen is the school's going to open back up, someone's going to get the coronavirus, and then, like, 3 days later, another person's going to get it, and then 5 days later, that person's grandma's going to die.
Yeah. And
they're going to blame it on the schools, and there's going to be this huge uproar that the schools killed grandma, and it's like, no, eating McDonald's for 35 years and smoking cigarettes killed grandma. You know, like, that's what killed grandma. And it's just like, also these teachers, like, we're reading, my wife is on the board of the reopening of our public school. And the teachers are projecting so much anxiety and fear on the parent committee that my wife and a lot of the parents don't want their kids to be around that teacher. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's like, if you're a pedophile, I don't want you to be around my child,
Yes.
for obvious reasons. If you're just going to project a massive amount of anxiety and fear on my child, I also don't want my child to be around you, because I don't think creating anxiety and fear and turning on a kid's adrenal gland is a healthy way to raise them.
Oh, no.
And so I think that a lot of teachers, for whatever reason, be it legitimate, be it that they really enjoy not having a commute in a classroom to clean up, for whatever reason, are projecting anxiety and fear on the school community, and thus parents are like, ooh, I don't know if I want my kid being around this. Mm-hmm. Like, you send your kid to kindergarten to socialize, learn facial cues, communicate, share toys, to get sick. You know, you don't send them there to like wear masks and sanitize and not share.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kids aren't going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that everybody thinks that kids are going to go back and just wear their masks and be... I was like, have you ever had a kid? Have you been around a kid?
Look at my kids.
Yeah, there's no way.
Fuck.
5 seconds after they walk through the door, the mask's coming off.
And they're sharing toys and whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And we're so blessed that this virus is not attacking our children. We are so blessed. Mm-hmm. You know, and so thankful. Like, silver lining, there's a silver lining for you, America. But... You know, I don't know. It's just...
I tend to think that a lot of the anxiety, because, I mean, when all this stuff first hit, I think there was some warranted anxiety because nobody knew anything about this. Like, it was killing a lot of people, and that's all we knew. We didn't know, was it treatable? Is it something that's just everybody's going to get and everybody could potentially die from? Like, there was no information. Fast forward, 4 or 5 months, there's still not a whole lot of information, and all that we're getting is... It goes back to what I was talking about earlier. The news doesn't give us the truth; it gives us opinion, and it gives us
something
fear.
to click.
Yeah, and
it's
so
all about click.
We're still trying to base our lives around not having information, and it's hard to find that information. Like, you have to go digging to find that information.
Right.
So I understand. Like, it sucks that we have that anxiety amongst teachers, and we have that fear, and even amongst us as like non-teachers, but. Why are we anxious? Well, we don't know anything. We're getting so much conflicting information. What are we supposed to do with that?
Yeah, people like often are like accuse me of like wanting to assassinate grandmothers, and I'm like, well, guys, there's enough people telling you this is the apocalypse. Someone's got to be on the other side of society, like jumping up and down on the scale, telling you like, let's all take a deep breath here and let's look at the data that we do have. And like, my kids never stopped going to school. Like, well, my older kid did when they shut schools down. My younger kid, at one point, he was like one of 3 kids in preschool. And we never stopped taking them because we believed we had the coronavirus when we were in Asia in late January, early February, my family. And we saw the news and the data many weeks, because we were in Thailand and the Middle East back in mid-January through February, and we were with my sister who was from China. She lived in China for 19 years. So we were getting all the news in Eastern Asia of the coronavirus. And so you were saying there was not that information. There was a lot of information, just the media was fixated on the death rate. It was like the scoreboard of death is what I call it. And that's very scary if that's the information you're getting. But when we were over there, it was very clearly attacking one subset of the populace, elderly. And it was very clearly attacking one subset of that populace, people who smoked. So I was like, here's a lung disease, lifestyle choice, age. Okay, he's a 4-year-old and he doesn't smoke. He's fine.
Yeah.
And so I never was scared. Also because we already thought we had it, because we had all the symptoms. And anyways, so it's just like, when it first started, like, I remember seeing people being like, have you seen what's happening in Italy? I'm like, yes, I have seen what's happening in Italy. Aren't you terrified? I'm like, no, I'm not terrified. Like, it's a culture that lives on top of each other in filth, where a third of the population smokes, you know, where they kiss each other to say hello. And if you look at the death rate, it's plummeted, and it's just above their seasonal flu death. It's just like, there's data for you. Like, if you don't smoke and you're young, you're fine. If you did smoke and you're old, you probably should think about stopping to smoke.
Which
you know,
consider anyway, but you know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Like, this is part of the libertarian in me, and it's so funny because my dad is such a compassionate Democrat, And he raised me to be so compassionate, but at the same time, he used to always like tell me shit like, he knew I'd be drunk from high school the night before, and I'd want to sleep in, and he'd wake up, and he'd, man enough to drink, get out of bed, deal with the consequences. And I'm like, he taught me this attitude of deal with the consequences. I don't know if your dad taught you that attitude.
I think life just teaches you that to some degree.
To some degree,
Yeah.
but like, guys, if you're 83 years old and you fucking ate McDonald's your whole life and smoked, deal with the consequences.
Yeah,
I just like, they're so callous and mean and rude of you. I don't know any other way to say it, man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like, what did you expect?
There are actions and consequences. I don't think that's this. I think there's probably a better way to say it, but honestly, that's just life, though. Like, there are actions and consequences. If I make a choice, I will sit there, and I don't do this as much anymore. I used to be really bad about it, but I would overanalyze the situation, be like, to the point where I just wouldn't make a decision at all. But I will throw in the thought process of, okay, what are the potential outcomes? Am I okay with either one of these outcomes, depending on the decision, and then make the decision. Like, you have to be okay with the outcome. You understand what the outcome could potentially be. You may not have all the information. You may not understand every outcome. You have to. That's just life. That's life. But you can get enough information to go, okay, I can make a decision, and am I comfortable with this outcome?
My mom used to do something very similar with me. My mom's very much libertarian. She doesn't associate with it, but she very much is. She would have me draw a sheet of paper. Down the left-hand side, write pros. Down the right-hand side, write cons.
Pros and cons, yep.
Yeah. And I would write them out. And I get it. Charles always tries to be like, well, Steven, not everyone sees the world you do. Okay, that's cool. But when I see their logic, I'm not going to call anyone out by names here, but people making decisions based off like, well, the coronavirus kills people like me, 40 years old and healthy. I'm like, if that's your logic, you also need to stop driving a car because driving a car is more likely to kill you. Well, that's just absurd. Then your logic is absurd. No, it's not. I don't know how to talk to you.
Yeah.
Like, you're literally saying that 1 in 5,000 chance is not good enough for you, so you would prefer not to go out in public. Okay, then stop driving a car. But that's not the same thing. Yes, it is. I truly believe that texting and driving and drinking and driving has a higher fatality rate, and the numbers will play out probably for 55 and under than the coronavirus. And maybe even 40 and under, 18 and under, 100%. 100%. Like, I just saw in Florida, not a person under the age of 23, the new hotspot, not a person under the age of 23 has passed away.
Yeah.
And the 23-year-old had 5 pre-existing conditions who did pass away, and the next oldest age is 28. And so it's like, who was a diabetic. And so it's just like, guarantee you car wrecks this past week can kill more people in Florida under the age of 28.
It's Florida, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No offense, Florida. But so if your logic is you can't go out because of that, then your logic should also be you can't drive a car, right?
I mean, well, if you're...
Not just that, but you shouldn't drive a car either. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
You're good like that.
Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't drive a car either.
There is a whole bunch of governing somebody else because you don't want to take responsibility for yourself. That's a big thing in society. No. You have to take responsibility for me too. It's like, well, wait, what? I'm sorry.
Yeah. To a certain extent, I agree with that argument.
I would say if it, and this is again the libertarian.
Your freedom begins where mine ends, and vice versa. Yeah.
Because I'm like, if that person wants to do that free of their own free volition, by all means, do what you, because it's your decision to make. I wear a mask. Partially because there was the whole mandate that came out, but because I wanted, like, it helps other people feel comfortable, and I'm willing to do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was more of a decision I made because I wanted to respect other people. I didn't do it because I'm taking responsibility for you. I did that because I want you to feel comfortable, and
right.
Or I guess more so because of what you said didn't make me do it. In terms of, I want you to wear a mask because I want to feel safe. I did it because I chose to do it.
Right.
I guess if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And I think that that's like part of my libertarian platform is we have to go back to individualism. And people are like, but it's all about the society. It's all about us as a collective whole. But you're only as strong as your weakest link. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts that I cannot take care of my wife, my kids, my staff, my company until I take care of myself.
Mm-hmm. It really does start
And
first.
and so if my ultimate goal is to take care of my society, Stephen Christman comes first.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds so vain, yeah, but
selfish, yeah.
but like also like illogical.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I gotta take care of Jeb. Fuck that. I need to get drunk tonight and do my own thing. Yeah, but in reality, what I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. Like, I think I can take care of myself and take care of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I just think we've demonized individualism so much so. I mean, we reward it in some ways, like in the artistic way, but like in the way of making money, like more like Ayn Randism,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
is we've demonized it so
Yes.
much that people love to demonize Jeff Bezos,
Yeah.
and like, you know how much good he's done for society because he wanted to make a shit pile of money.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, he this and that, but like, do you know how much good he has done for society? Like massive amounts of good.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about donations or this and that. I'm just talking about creating commerce, creating sales channels, having people like. One of my favorite things to say is the toughest role in society in the United States is being a young, single, black woman. Hands down. There's nothing that is a harder starting point. We're 3 white males. We're pretty much born on, especially if our parents were educated or grandparents, we're born on second, third base, home plate. 17-year-old black woman whose mom is 33. She has 2 young kids. You know, the man she slept with is probably not around. She has the toughest go at society. You know how much Jeff Bezos has done for her? She can pick up a phone, has access to information, she has access to cheap internet, she has access to healthcare, she has access to medicine at the push of a fucking button. Like you talk about Black Lives Matter? Because 100 years ago, she didn't have shit.
Yeah.
You know? And so Jeff Bezos did a lot for her. Capitalism did a lot for her.
And think about where we would be and what we're doing right now this whole pandemic thing if we didn't have Amazon that set the model for
home delivery.
Yeah,
my God,
it would be we'd still be struggling now.
You thought the riots were bad?
Yeah.
Imagine if people couldn't have access to consumables.
Yep. We struggled with toilet paper for 2 months. Yeah, there's just no way that set the standard for what other companies are doing right now.
Yeah. I mean, so it's just like, okay, you can argue that he has too much money. I get that argument, but like, you also have to understand the basics of inflation. Like, if I were to go put a bullet in Jeff Bezos' head, take all his money and distribute it equally to the poorest 50% of the people in the United States, do you know that their lives would literally change 0%?
Yeah.
Because a gallon of milk would go from $4 to $8. A gallon, because we have the same amount of consumer goods, we have the same amount of services, we just have more money chasing it. So all you're going to have is inflation. Like, their lives would change like, you're not poor because someone else is rich. And I think that's one of the, you're not skinny because someone else is fat. You know, like, we have this incredible ability in the United States, and you talked a little bit about it earlier. I forgot where you were in the podcast, but where we just constantly blame our failures on other people's attributes and decisions. I just don't understand how you can sit here and logically reason in your own mind that you're poor because someone else is rich. Like, there's definitely no causation, and there's very little correlation. You know.
Yeah, I look at corporations probably a little bit different than a lot of people. I think corporations are. It's so weird. There's good that has been done through that, and I think there's also been like greed has.
Do you think greed is bad?
I tend to think so. It depends on what kind of greed we're talking about, but
Yeah.
to the point where you are willing to hurt somebody else to get that to attain that goal of whatever that greed.
It's a very subjective statement, but I understand.
I think that tends to be that's obviously bad. You are stepping on someone else or whatever, and to get to a goal that, honestly, with a corporation, it's like what's another $1 million? You know, it gets to a point where why are you focusing so much on making the money to an excessive amount instead of focusing on what you can do for your employees or the like the local area around your company, your business, whatever it is.
That's I hear you, and I think that there is a missing. I think part of one of the reasons libertarianism just doesn't really take off is because libertarians don't put their money where their mouth is all the time.
Yep.
I think that's definitely a detriment, and I sort of see the future being like these sort of like city states where corporations play a major role, but corporations have to step up, and it's not like have a free softball tournament once a year.
Yeah,
it's like aggressively help the community, but also I have a huge belief in, and I think you're seeing it more and more in massive corporations where Amazon is trying to pitch this. I don't know if you've seen their new propaganda commercials, but I would watch the UFC last night and they had a bunch of propaganda commercials where like how happy the Amazon staff is. I mean, it's just, they're hilarious commercials. And their symbol is what? A smile.
Yes.
But taken after the McDonald's pitch, but the whole idea of happy, safe employees produce more. And I think you are beginning to see that, but that's also capitalism in a way. Like, if I want to attract the best talent, I have to treat the people the best. So the idea of like the whipping ball and chain is kind of archaic if your goal is production.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's what you're trying to say, or at least that's what I hear you trying to say.
That's part of it, because it's gotten to the point where corporations.
But is it government to legislate? Is it government's responsibility to legislate that?
Oof. I mean, I know that. So this really gets into like murky waters, because you talk about monopolization and monopolies, and that technically is illegal in America to have a monopoly. Exactly. Bunny ears. Yeah. But I mean, it's gotten to the point now. What is a corporation at this point? Like, what is Walmart? What is Amazon? If they're not a monopoly, they are damn close to it. I mean, Amazon is in so many different markets. They're in online.
Do you remember where they started with?
Selling books, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It was selling books.
Online bookstore.
Yep. That was
school books. Mm-hmm. I bought my school books from Amazon.
It's to think that was what
96, 98.
Oh, was it? I didn't even was that far ago. I thought it was probably like early 2000s, but yeah, and it's just
they're definitely a monopoly, and they're going to be broken up because what they're doing. Okay, so what they do, they have all this data, right? Like our business sells a significant amount of money on Amazon, and they have the data of what we sell. They know exactly what we sell because they literally tell us what we sell. So as soon as their business model says, oh, we can make money selling this product, they create the Amazon Prime or the Amazon, what do they call it? Basics. Amazon Basics. And they just put us out of the market.
Yep. I've noticed a lot. That's basically like the Walmart supermarket brand that they have their own brand now.
They're usually still subcontracting it, so they will come to Steven and say, hey, Steven, you make some really good socks. We want to make some Amazon Basic socks. And they know I'm selling them for, I don't know, $10 a piece, and they know that I'm probably manufacturing them for $6. They know they can manufacture them for $4 and sell them for $8, so they come and offer me $4.10. And they just send the traffic to their website, so I have no choice but to sell them. And so you're going to see a massive class action, and you're going to see that broken up. But Americans love cheap shit.
That's also my thing, is that I don't necessarily blame the companies. I do blame the government a little bit. There's a little bit of like being in bed with each other type of thing. But also, like you said, Americans love, as long as you're giving me the product I want at the price I'm willing to pay for it, cheap, I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
But then they turn around and get mad because this is some kind of evil corporation. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's the whole shit. Like, I just like, people are like, oh, did Jeff Bezos, then stop giving him money while all of his cheap shit. Then shut the fuck up.
Yeah. You can't have your cake. There's just no.
Oh, dude, my favorite libertarian saying, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. And that's something, as I've grown up, I'm like, I'm starting to understand that a little bit more. Like, I've matured and I start thinking through these. I'm like, yeah, I have to shut up about one of those things. Which one is it going to be? Exactly. I'll tell you one thing. Amazon, like having Amazon Prime, that's convenient. I'm like, I'm going to shut up about all the other stuff.
Jeff Bezos ain't that bad.
Yeah. I get my stuff for cheap, and I get it in 2 days.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly. I mean, yeah, it's just, but that's the whole thing too about, I don't know, like, I understand like where empathy comes from, and I think it's one of the reasons we've survived as a species is we are empathetic for one another, and I don't ever want to not culture that, But at a certain point, empathy becomes detrimental to the rest of society. And we got big into this in the podcast about public education for so many school kids. You know, you want to talk about Black Lives Matter. Well, there's a lot of black lives in inner cities that are missing a window in which they're going to learn to read.
Yes.
And like Charles was saying in the last podcast, who, by the way, taught at an inner city school for 7 years, that like if a kid is not reading by second grade on a second grade level, it's got a 92% chance they drop out, 86% chance they fucking go to jail, blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, just like, it is just bad. And he's like, the window ain't fucking, 10 years. The window's a semester. You know? And so he's like, their parents might love them, but they're not going to learn how to read over the internet.
Yeah.
They're not going to learn phonetics over the internet. And so it's just like, what's more important? Prolonging the 83-year-old life or teaching the 51 million kids out there to learn how to read?
Yeah. I mean,
and that's the thing too, is like, if you're going to tell me that I want to assassinate grandmother, if you're going to draw this conclusion that my policy wants to assassinate every elderly person in the United States, then the same logic is you don't care about inner city black kids. Same fucking logic.
Everybody's got this oversimplified solution to a
Exactly.
very complex situation. Like we are at a point right now where there's not going to be a really a good solution. It's not a perfect solution.
Right.
Somebody's going to be affected, and like this is where the hard decisions are going to have to be made. And I don't necessarily think that's not an empathetic thing. Like you're being empathetic towards somebody. Like you're talking about kids and reading
Or retirement centers.
Yeah, and that is a shitty choice to have to make. It sucks.
No.
It is not an easy choice. I don't think you're trying to say that, you say, grandma's life is any less important, but what are you going to do? What are you going to choose?
Because we have about we could maybe do this for another 6 months. And then after that, like, these kids have to get back in school. These kids have to read. These kids have to learn basics in order to succeed. They have to socialize. Or we're going to talk about school shootings. Fortnite ain't have shit on the fucking school shootings we're going to have in 10 years. So it's like, we have to think about the law. Like my dad was talking about, I don't know if you were sitting outside, about how dogs have become more aggressive because they've become more attached to their owner, because they're around their owner more. And thus, they're also, in my mind, probably feeling the owner's anxiety. Yes. And so now dogs that's an unintended consequence of what this lockdown. There's some silver linings of all these unintended consequences. The air is cleaner. We're using less natural resources. The carbon emissions are lower than they've been in 25, 30 years. So there's silver linings, but at the same time, like, you have to balance all of these issues at once. And I just like this notion of, it's not, I try to explain to people, it's not saving lives, it's prolonging life. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with the concept of prolonging a life, especially a 7, 8, or 9-year-old. But we're not talking about a 7, 8, or 9-year-old. We're talking about an 88, 88, 89, 90-year-old. And it's just like, yeah, I have a grandmother in the retirement community in New York who's 94 years old. Yes, I love her very much. No, I don't want her to die. But there's 51 million kids that need to learn to read. Yeah. Well, and I don't think it has to be one or the other.
No, not necessarily. I think there are probably ways to make this a somewhat safe, at least transition. Like, we're in uncharted territory throughout all of this. Every step we make is going to be like the first step that we've tried to do this. So you're going to probably stumble a little bit or fail at it. It's going to happen. And it sounds callous, but like, none of us get out of this life alive. Death comes to us all. It's 100%. Like, it's going to happen.
That's called science.
Yeah, exactly. That whole libertarian thing. We're for science. There's nothing you can do to stop that. And you're talking about prolonging life, but to me, it almost sounds like you're trying to prevent death at this point. It's like, you can't. We're going to die from something. And I know when I say that, I sound very like
and that's another thing too, though. Like, another thing, Jeb will know this pet peeve, and just since you're new to the podcast here, it fucking drives me crazy that all of a sudden we're so concerned about preventing death when heart disease, diabetes, and cancer has been killing millions of people a year, and they're all preventable diseases for the most part. their lifestyle choices. All three of those: heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Last year, I don't remember us shutting down supermarkets to stop selling processed food.
Yeah.
I definitely don't remember that. Hey, maybe I missed something. Maybe last year the government was in there saying no one can go to the grocery store because they're selling processed food, and that causes heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. But I don't remember that. I don't remember everyone having to go to bed at 10 o'clock because sleep really helps you prevent heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. I don't remember that lockdown. Do you remember the government telling us we all need to go to bed? Do you remember the government telling us we all need to go get exercise? I don't remember any of this. But that's how you prevent. And you add quality years to people's lives, and you end heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. But all of a sudden, the virus comes along, and we give a shit about life again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. It really isn't about the quantity of life. It's about the quality of life.
Right.
If you're going to live 80 years, are there going to be 80 good years or 80 years of dealing with all these diseases that come from an unhealthy lifestyle? I don't want to live 80 years just feeling all of that.
No.
If I want to live 80 some odd years, I prefer to at least feel somewhat like, yes, your body breaks down naturally. That just happens. There's not really anything you can do about that. But outside of that, you can add to it or you can take away from it.
There's a lot of podcasts I listen to is like about aging. Like I'm big into like biomedical podcasts. So you have telomeres, and that's like there's telomeres in all living things that allow cells to continue to replicate. And there's probably a way in which we can prevent death, where you can have regenerative life. You would not ever be the same person. You would constantly be mutating, is the theory. But so Jeb of 1,000 years old has nothing in common with a Jeb who was 500, who had nothing in common with a Jeb that was 50. But when Jeb's mom's egg was fertilized by Jeb's father, that genetic sequence can continue on in a geeky sort of way.
Yes.
But there are a lot of things you can do just to live to be a centenarian and just enjoy life. And they're not that challenging, but I see very few people doing them. So it's really hard for me as a human being to hear, hey, your kids can't go to school. Hey, fuck these little black kids in the ghetto. I don't give a shit if they can learn to read. We need to keep my grandma alive. When you're fucking smoking cigarettes and eating McDonald's, and you're not exercising, and you're not getting vitamin D, and you're not going to preventive medicine, and you're not seeking out information, and you're not doing pre-cancer screenings, and you're not doing these things, because, and this is the thing I talked about earlier too, like, I'm okay with people saying that you should quarantine, but you also need to stop driving cars. Yeah. And that's the libertarianism in me, I guess. And Charles often says, well, you're just too logical of a person. And he doesn't mean it insulting. I think he says it kind of as an insulting way, but I take it as a complimenting way, because I think logic is what allows us to stay in our prefrontal cortex and to arrive to simple conclusions. And like I've told everyone on this podcast, I know I'm on the right side of history about this. I just know in my heart of hearts that we have to open society up. We have to not be afraid. We have to make precautions, but we have to just hit this virus in the fucking mouth, develop not just an immunity to the concept, but allow our children's bodies to learn virus defense to continue as a species. If not, we're going to have a virus, COVID-30 or COVID-40, that will wipe us the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like a 30% kill rate.
Yeah.
And a real 30% kill rate. Not some fucking fictional media kill rate. When the kill rate's probably literally going to when it's all said and done, I'm betting it's 1 in 2,500. That's my bet, by the way.
I think we should take a break. What do you think?
Well, my beer is out, so
let's take a break.
Let's get back to the chaos, shall we?
All right, guys. We're back here with Larry Meek, the geek.
New nickname.
Yep, that's right.
I give everyone a nickname.
The geek. I represent all geekdom.
Yeah, he geekdom. So we got a little off subject there. We were having fun just talking about geeks. But where do you see geeks in the future? Like, I'm dead serious. Like, I sort of see it as just geeks morphing into and leading the charge of the virtual reality life that is just destined.
Oh yeah, I think you're right about the whole like virtual reality. Basically, not leaving our houses.
Yeah,
we're kind of there right now anyway.
Yeah, I think we've accelerated that, right?
Yes, I think so.
What about like you know what singularity is? Where like we have become one with artificial intelligence. We become one with, I guess, technology.
Yeah, because I remember the movie.
Terminators. Like
well, there was I think it was a movie called
the Bruce Willis movie. Well, he puts his mind in a robot body. Surrogate, that's what it's called.
Okay. Well, there's also Transcendence with Johnny Depp, where his body dies and they send
that's another thing we were talking about earlier about like living forever.
Yeah,
you know, like your telomeres and like that type of way, like downloading your brain.
Yeah, I don't know if I want that.
Yeah, it is kind of weird to think about, but like, you have to remember, like I've been trying to like. I literally tried to get my dad to buy Bitcoin when it was like $5. And just never gathered the concept. I would tell him like, Dad, you would have made $50 gazillion. He still doesn't get it, And so like, but like my kids would understand Bitcoin. Like, there's no problem. Like, and you might say, oh, there's no way I'm downloading my fucking brain. But your grandkids probably are like, that sounds like a great idea.
That's because you think you're talking about you're right generational things. Like our parents look at this and go, I don't want to do that at all. But we're like, oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Think of the way that the rate we're
it's just
giving.
a digital currency, Dad.
Yeah. Think of the rate that we're giving up our privacy.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And you know who has a lot to blame for that? The geeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it. Like I've got a Google Home Hub. I've got a Google Nest. I got all this stuff. I'm like, so the smartphone. You don't even think about it. It's just part of life at that point. But it's also one of those, having a home hub where I can control my lights and my TV and all that stuff with my voice. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty awesome. I like the convenience.
It got a little scary one night at the house. I just asked Larry, like, hey Larry, what time is it? And then Alexa answered me, it is 10:15. Yeah. I didn't say Alexa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, whenever I say like, if you say Google with a certain connotation, my phone will turn on.
Mm-hmm. I've got a Pixel and it does the same thing.
Have you seen? This is fucking freaky to me, and I knew it was real, but like you can test this. Like, what's something you've never bought before? Ever like you'd ever be interested in buying, like a lawnmower, or just make something up here?
Oh man, I don't even know.
Water filter, a wine, like just any
like a chainsaw. Why not?
Okay. So let's talk for like 3 minutes about the cool buying a chainsaw, and tomorrow you'll have it as advertising.
I have.
So like, what tree do you need to cut down tomorrow, Larry?
Yeah, an oak tree.
Okay, yeah. So you're thinking maybe like a 24-inch chainsaw blade.
Yeah. Barna makes a really good chainsaw.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. And so I was actually like thinking of like, I don't know, maybe like a Honda chainsaw. I've heard they have like really good. They're expensive, but I heard they have a discount code online. I guarantee you tomorrow you're fucking have a discount code in your phone for a Honda chainsaw.
The little, because I see you got Google, right?
Yeah.
Like the little news feed that's on the far left of you.
Oh yeah.
Like, stuff will pop up like
there's probably a chainsaw right now.
Yeah. It's like I think I remember talking about it, or you search one time for like a celebrity or something, and all of a sudden you're getting 14 news stories. Like I don't need all of this. I just looked up one thing.
Oh, here's one interesting thing is tonight I'm big into the ketosis diet. And my mom made keto desserts, and there was a lot of topic of keto desserts. The first article, 10 best keto desserts to buy for weight loss.
See, that's creepy to me.
Fuck yeah, it's creepy.
I don't like that it's listening to me.
The effects of high-protein diets on kidney health and longevity. I've been talking about a lot. The no installation AC chills. I sent that to you on the WhatsApp today about the factory.
I really want that.
Yeah. Let's try. I think we should. It's like $80. I think we should take one out.
Let's try it.
For me, it depends on what is happening on the back end of it. Like what's Google doing with that information? If it's
it's obviously there's no human listening.
Yeah,
to it.
right.
But this is where I do believe like in the tin hat libertarianism, where it's like you're totally right that it's nefarious in the way that they're trying to sell you something. But it's not nefarious in the way like they're going to put you in a concentration camp for the way you think.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it can't get there.
Yeah.
Well, that would never happen. Oh, really?
And what in human history defies that logic? Because everything I've seen, because was it back when Roosevelt did the income tax? Like there was no income tax before 1940 whatever, and then they institute that. It's like, oh, it'll never go above 3%. Yeah. Okay. Look, what's it today? Yeah.
That was the thing.
Or
That was like I think the 30s.
Yeah.
But
30s.
Another one too, like Social Security. Like when they made Social Security, the average lifespan in the United States was like 58 years old, and it started at 62. Now the average age of the lifespan is like 81 if you're a woman, and like 78 if you're a man. And Social Security still stayed at 62. That's not Social Security anymore. That's a retirement plan. But let's just call it what it is. We want a government-sponsored retirement plan. It's no longer a social safety net for people who live 3 years past the average age. You're supposed to be working and producing and manufacturing. You're like, but somehow it's morphed into like a retirement plan, and it's what's going to bankrupt the United States.
Yes.
It's going to become insolvent because the money they're using now is money that I'm paying into the system, which is what, if I did that, you would send me to jail for a Ponzi scheme.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I've said the same thing. I said, so it's illegal for us to do this, but the government, because they're the ones that make the rules. So
of course it is, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at the fiscal situation. I don't know. Like when I get into like the Steverdamus stuff, I think we're gonna break up into micro nations, and we're only gonna have flirted with this geographical territory for about 300 to 500 years. And these new micronations are going to be without borders, and they're going to be based off your interests, and you're going to have your own micronation currency and your own micronation 3D virtual reality. So geekdoms might, trade geek coins and just fucking masturbate to Star Wars, and you have your own society that you build with people in Iran and Chile and Russia and South Korea, where you all geek out on George Lucas, and you make your own society, and you never leave your realm. And you guys sort of like Fortnite or Dungeons and Dragons, you have your own rules and regulations, but times 100.
Yeah.
Where it's like some government official comes from Washington, D.C., and you have 300 million geekdoms all protecting you. And so your government of geekdom becomes more powerful than the geographical one of the United States. Like, that's how I see the future.
Read Ready Player One. Like, it's not complete. It's definitely not a government, like, political story or anything like that. It's a kind of a sci-fi fantasy type story, but
What's it called?
Ready Player One.
Ready, Play, Rewind?
Player One.
They
Ready.
made a movie about it.
Yeah, well, don't watch the movie. Read the book. The movie sucked. But yeah, I mean, what made me think of it was part of it was this gaming system that this big tech guy created. That it's a VR system, and there are entire worlds that are built within this system that you can go to. Like, there's a D&D world. There's a Halo world, and like there's an entire world where you can just go hang out with those people and go on adventures and play games, whatever is involved. You can do at those worlds. Now, it costs a certain type of currency within that gaming system,
right,
to go there.
And you're beginning to see that with altcoin, right? You're beginning to see, like, there's now hundreds, thousands of coins, and they're all based off blockchain technology, and you're beginning to see, like, certain people gravitate towards a certain coin. And I think you're going to see it too, where we just I think that the whole idea of currency is giving credit to a service or a good for future purchase. And I think it's going to be the same in these alternative universes. And I think you're just going to see less and less people leaving their house, and they're just like, you're going to stop associating with being United States. You're going to start associating yourself with Geekdom 2 or whatever. And when I'm saying this stuff, guys, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, this is not like a good thing or a bad thing. It's just
a thing.
It's just a thing. I think it's plutonic in a way, and it's scary for a lot of people. But that's just where I don't be like, oh, that's crazy, But I'm like, dude, is it really?
Yeah.
Like, how far-fetched is it that we turn into a virtual reality-based society? Well, I would never be able to communicate with Iran. Well, have you seen how Google Translate works?
Yeah.
Just give that technology 20 more years of artificial intelligence.
And it'll do it in your ear for you. And you'll speak, and then they'll be able to hear their language.
In real time.
like Google kind of already has that to some degree
they do.
with their Buzz. Like you can actually use Google Translate through their headphones, and it'll do the whole thing.
And that's just on the tip of the fucking iceberg.
Exactly. That's like fairly new technology. It's going to progress.
Yeah. So then we have to learn each other's social cultural cues, but then Google will pick up on our social cultural cues and be able to blend that into our language. And then the next thing you know, I'll say something like, man, just bless her heart. And in Iran, the way you say something before you insult someone is, may Muhammad have peace on him.
Yeah.
And it won't even translate it from, man, just bless her heart. It will translate it into, may Muhammad have peace on him. So now I'm speaking not just Farsi, I'm speaking cultural Farsi. And he'll say it right back. And, so we'll have this like universal language where we maintain our own language, but we're using artificial intelligence, which has all been gravitated, and then there'll be like some guy behind the steel curtain and we Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
But in all of the countries.
Yeah, I'm just.
It's going to be the NSA. I mean, they're just going to be collecting.
Oh, I mean, I saw, I didn't saw, well, I listened to, I often say I saw, when in reality, podcasts have just become big in the last 10 years. So when I say I saw, what I really meant to say was I listened to Snowden on Joe Rogan. Have you listened to that one?
I have not. I don't think so. I think I've probably heard some snippets of it.
Yeah. He just talks about the NSA and just like the mountainous amount of data they have. And not only that, they just steal the data from everybody else. So they just won't it's literally, it's not a question of how much data they have. They have all of it.
Yeah.
And when I mean all of it. They just had the conversation about chainsaws. They have it. And it's just, I don't know. Like, it just, you're being crazy. It's like anytime I think about like government, like assigning a value based off a moral belief they think you had, I just go straight to the Holocaust. Just like,
No, that stuff is scary.
It really the fuck is.
Yeah. Like that.
Not much keeps me awake at night. That keeps me awake at night.
That's where I start. Because I don't care what Google does with my information.
They're just going to try to sell me a chainsaw tomorrow.
Exactly. And that's fairly innocuous. Like, okay, all I have to do is like say I'm not interested. And I don't have to think about it anymore. But when the government has stuff like that and they start saying, he's talking about our political system in a very negative way. Let's go ahead and flag him and we're going to pay attention to what he's saying. It's like, wait, what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, that has not worked out historically well for anybody.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. That's where I start thinking about, well, what am I really saying here where, Google can pick it up? Because you're right. They have access to all the information.
They fucking own Google servers.
Yeah.
Like Larry Page and Matt Cutts ain't protecting us.
No.
They can suck a dick.
I am not so naive to believe that the corporations, because we were talking about earlier, corporations and the government are in bed together.
Especially the powerful ones.
Yes, exactly. And where the government sees something beneficial in having Google in their pocket, Google can.
Of course.
Yeah.
We're not going to break up your monopoly, your search engine monopoly.
Yeah.
Please
let us. Ridiculous.
It's so much easier for us to only have to fucking crack one set of servers. We don't want to have to crack Bing. No one uses Bing. It's just like, my God. It's so fucking silly. And the other thing too that I always just get so mad about, and this is like the libertarian principle, and like always say all good conversations are circular, and we're circling back to it, of the bi-party system, is this concept that like, let's make the Oval Office the most powerful position in the world because Barack Obama can write as many executive orders as I want because he's so great. As soon as Donald Trump gets in there, you're like, well, he shouldn't have all this power. And you're like,
yes.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah, we said that. That's why we were saying that the last time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's okay for your guy to have the power, or your candidate, because I won't say guy.
Yeah.
Your candidate to have the power, but it's not okay for our candidate, again, bunny years, to have the power. So why not just take away power from everyone, level the playing field? No one gets the power.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, I do think you're going to see a massive move to libertarianism. Like, I don't think you're going to have a candidate. So we've had what? Well, we've had other parties. Like, there was the Federalists. There was the Whigs.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the one that Theodore Roosevelt won on.
The New Party.
Yeah, because
I think it was called the New Party.
He wasn't a Republican. I think he did win as a Republican one time, but then he lost the primary. Something was like, well, I'm gonna go run under a different
I think
party.
it's called the New Party. There were the Whigs, there was the Tories, there was
Yep.
the Republicans, there was the Democrats. But there will be another party that comes along that has a team behind it, right? And I think, I don't think the name is as important as the belief.
Yes.
Call it the fuck you want to call it. I almost think that libertarianism has a scarred name, so you might just want to call it everything's semantics, right?
Yeah. But words are important too.
Yeah.
Terms are important.
Yeah, exactly. The future party.
Yeah, I think the very nature of being a libertarian kind of it doesn't help the cause because we're so just get out of my way and let me do my thing.
Yeah.
That we don't really want to start a movement. We just want to do our thing.
Yeah, that's the whole thing I'm trying to say is how do I run on that? It's how do I orate that my goal is to go to Washington D.C. and shrink it? Mm-hmm. Because I guess you could say, well, I'm going to give the power back to you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to deregulate. And this is nothing I also argue about people with is I think as libertarians, we have a lot more in common with large government at a local level. And so I think a lot of people are libertarian at a federal level and they don't realize it. Mm-hmm. And so it's a lot of times you need to debate about I always say Bernie Sanders would be a great mayor. He'd be a terrible president. Mm-hmm. He'd be a great mayor. I would love for Uncle Bernie to be down on the Capitol building right now. Uncle Bernie, good to see you, man. And we go out and we have a beer and we can laugh. And I'm telling him there's a pothole over here on the road. And I'm really worried about Miss Sally's class over here at Wiley Elementary. She's just got too many kids. And he'd be great. But him doing that for 350 million people, terrible idea.
Yeah.
And so it's I'm very libertarian at the federal level. But at the state or local level, sure, I'm a socialist. In my household, you guys came in. You guys had a drink. That's socialism. You didn't do shit to deserve it. You didn't do anything to earn it. I gave it to you for free.
Hospitality.
And it's hospitality. That's socialism. There's nothing wrong. I own the means of production. This is my house. You're in my socialist world. I'm the dictator. I'm the president. Now, you can quickly leave it.
Yeah.
And I can't.
That's the difference.
Yeah, that is the difference. But that's also voting with your feet. But you can't escape a massive Washington, D.C.
Exactly.
Theodore Roosevelt formed the Progressive Party.
Not the new party, the Progressive Party. Thank you, sir.
That's got a different connotation nowadays, too.
Yeah, right? It's just to me, it's just kind of... It's silly because I think so many times we're arguing about what power government should have, and we just assume we're talking federal government. I'm why are we... Why do we not think this would be the appropriate power for the state level? Yes. And we've just gotten so far away from that. After the 13th Amendment, I think it was the Commerce Clause they used. The 13th or the 16th?
It's so interesting because North Carolina is vastly different from Colorado. Mm-hmm. The way that the state is run, the society, the culture, it's vastly different. So why should everybody have
vastly different from Vance County?
Oh, very much so. Johnston County is over there. I grew up in Johnston County. I know it's different. Everything should not be run the exact same way because not everything is the same. That's what makes America great. Is there's so much diversity.
I like how you worked to make America great.
Oh my gosh! I retract that statement right now. I was just thinking so many. I think a lot of these policies and these rules are in place because people are worried that if you don't govern the hell out of people, it's going to run amok. And honestly, I'm a Christian. I see a lot of that in Christianity too, because there's a lot of rules put in place to say, well, if we don't put the rules in place, then people are just going to go out and sin all. It's no,
that's just such incredible bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
It's such a great. It's one of the biggest fallacies in society.
Yeah, maybe 2,000, 3,000 years ago, you might have had an argument, but
I don't even know then. The whole thing, if I made it legal to not wear a seatbelt, are you gonna be oh, I'm definitely not wearing my seatbelt on the ride home tonight?
Yeah. There will be people that do that. There will absolutely be people that do that.
But I don't think that for example, if I were to say heroin is legal tomorrow, you two are just gonna get up and Jeb's not coming to work because he's gonna go try his heroin.
No. Yeah. I have no desire to try that stuff.
Exactly. It's just that's the whole point. It's just the Christian fallacy. well, if we didn't make it a commandment, everyone would be fucking each other's wives, and we'd all be murdering each other, and we'd be worshiping fucking goldfish. Like, it's just like, what are you talking? You're right. Maybe 3,000 years ago, that's what would have happened.
You could have had an argument for it.
Maybe. I mean, I wasn't alive then, so I don't know, but maybe.
Yeah.
But let's just say, for argument's sake, you are correct. But that doesn't mean you're correct today.
Yeah. I tend to think that people are kind of self-destructive to some degree anyway. Like and not that all of us are going out and trying to kill ourselves, but you were talking about, eating McDonald's every day and whatever else. Like, people tend to be a little self-destructive, but you making a rule for that is not going to stop them from doing it.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
That doesn't stop anything. They just find another self-destructive thing to do.
And who's to say that that's not an okay way to live? We talk about this, like the homeless guy under the bridge comes up a lot on the podcast. Who am I to say that my White House and a picket fence, which I never thought I'd have a White House and a picket fence, and I literally have a White House and a picket fence, is the right way to live?
It's your way to live.
Yeah, exactly.
You like it.
But that doesn't mean that I need to legislate everyone to live this way.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so silly to me. They're like, oh, well, he must be miserable. Well, maybe you would be miserable if you lived that lifestyle, but maybe he's not miserable.
Mm-hmm.
In his realm and his reality of his Dungeons and Dragons and his whatever, he's fucking chilling.
Yep. And ignorance is such a dangerous thing, because ignorance is what eventually leads to hatred. And I think that it's a path to hatred, because people fear what they don't understand. Ignorance, you don't understand it.
Right.
And people tend to hate what they fear. Think about the whole coronavirus, that people are scared, and there's so much hatred out there right now. So one of the ways I really think about, the only way to really clear up ignorance is through education. And I guess I should say the only way to really clear up ignorance is through education. But the way to do that is to have conversations with people. What we're doing right now, we're having a conversation, we're getting to know each other. You tend to have more empathy, or you see that person in a different light. I think that's one thing that needs to happen in our society in general. Is just there's two sides are shouting back and forth at each other, saying, well, you're wrong and I'm right. Well, no, you're wrong and I'm right. There's no conversation being had.
Yeah.
That's an argument. That's not a conversation. Right. It's not even a good argument. When people come together and have the conversation and see, you are another human being. You have gifts and you have flaws and you have dreams and you have all these things that I have, maybe not the same ones, but I have those things too. You find that you can relate to people. And relationship is kind of key to this whole thing. Nobody wants to relate. Nobody wants a relationship with anybody else. They are so concerned with being right that they aren't going to.
I think we might just be massively insecure right now as a culture.
Oh, yeah. Insecurity is a big thing. I don't think that's,
and I always try to go to bed and think about something I learned today. Like, I'm sure that when I go to bed tonight, I'm going to think about something you said in this conversation, and it's probably going to change my opinion on something. I don't know what that's something, and I may not even ever be able to say Larry the Geek, the Meek, is the one who made me think this way.
Right.
It just is something that's just going to naturally come out of my vernacular in the future. And I think that just this ebb and flow of constantly changing yourself and changing who you are and how you relate to society is how you stay away from this ignorance, fear, and hate, that you're talking about. And this absolutism, man, has just gotten out of control. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like, though, you have to sort of hit rock bottom. And Jeb and I have debated this on previous podcasts. Where is rock bottom? Are we as a society at a rock bottom? Or are we not even close? I don't know that answer.
Yeah. Funny thing about being at rock bottom, I don't think you know until you're there.
Yeah.
You realize I'm at rock bottom, because I've reached those points.
I don't think we're there yet.
I don't think so either.
I think that this panic and fear, we have such an unhealthy relationship with health, both physical and mental, in the United States, that we haven't even begun to address.
No.
150 million people morbidly obese, or dangerously obese is probably the right way to say it. I don't want to say morbidly. Dangerously obese, 150 million Americans. Not even talked about it once at the coronavirus. 20% of the population still smokes regularly. 80% are lacking basic supplements. 70% don't get recommended daily allowance of vitamin of exercise. Like we're not even close to talking about our physical, and like I don't even think how the FDA and CDC defines a healthy person is even healthy.
Yeah.
And so we're not even close to talking about that. We're all caught up in this fear, and then I think Uncle Donnie's going to win in another 4 years, and it's just going to be a complete fucking meltdown, and we're just going to fucking just really we're going to dig even more into absolutism.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. Even if Biden won, I see us going in the same direction.
Oh yeah.
It's the way that we're going. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and there will be some kind of tipping point. I don't know what that's going to be. Not a tipping point. There will be a spark. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it were some kind of second civil war type of thing. It really wouldn't surprise me.
I think that you'll see economic warfare.
Yes.
I definitely think this election cycle, you're going to see political violence. I don't think it's going to be like tens of thousands of people, but I definitely think you're going to see some fucking Antifa drive a car through a Trump rally or vice versa, or both. I think you're probably going to see a bomb at a political... Well, I don't know how many political events there's going to be because the fear of gatherings. But I definitely think you're going to see people dying in the name of political parties this election cycle. 100%, I think you're going to see that. No matter who wins, I think you're going to see a further polarization. But the one thing that can bring us all together is let's all hate China. Let's all hate Iran. You know, like I could see a guy.
I was not expecting that.
Oh, dude, but I can see it coming, man.
And that's super healthy too.
Yeah,
no, not in the least bit.
Yeah, I can see that one coming. I can see us like how together we were in 9/11. You know, 88-90% of people love George Bush. You know, September 12th.
Yep.
You know, and I can see I can see us like either going to war with ourselves or finding a common enemy.
Yeah.
Whether that's, you know, Chinese or Mexicans or Europeans.
I mean, that's how you get out of the slump. Well, that's how you got the Great Depression. Found a war.
Yeah, exactly.
Got out of the Great Depression.
Yeah, I mean, there's no economy like a war economy, right?
Yep. Well, we're stuck in a rut. Who can we fight right now?
No. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? Like, I don't know who we would fight. Obviously, China's the natural guess. I
don't think I would want to do that.
I think that would end. A conventional war with China would end very poorly.
Yes,
for both sides.
Yes, an economic war would probably end pretty poorly for us.
We have so many natural resources. We're so blessed with that. You know, as a nation, like we have this huge barrier with islands on both sides, and we got fucking Canadians to the north. Yeah. What the fuck are they? 51st state. Yeah, I mean, who can't love a Canadian? And we have Mexicans to the south, and like, let's be honest, our cultures are merging into one. So like, NAFTA has really brought all three countries, and sure, there's NAFTA backlash, but like, there's a lot of fucking Hispanics in North Carolina. Like, I left North Carolina for 15 years. And I went to Latin America, and I came back, and I'm shocked at how Latin America, North Carolina is. Not in a bad way.
Right.
Like, this is not a bad thing. You know, like, it has nothing to do with good or bad. It just has to do with, it's a fact.
Yeah. I mean, once you cross over the border, like, there's like almost a straight shot. There's certain states or certain, I think, cities or whatever that have like straight shots for immigrants, and North Carolina is one of those states that...
Yeah, ICE doesn't really operate too much in the big counties like Mecklenburg and Wake. You know, so it's like sanctuary counties, whatever you want to call it. And good on Wake and Mecklenburg County. Like, one of the things for libertarianism, people ask me like, well, what is a libertarian? And one of the things I like to say is, we don't believe in made up shit. And like drawing like this on this side of the river is this country, and on that side of the river is that country. That's made up.
Yeah.
That's like made. We are the only mammal that respects that border. A bird flies across it. A monkey climbs across it. A dog doesn't know. Like, here's a piece of paper. This is going to allow you to walk through this gate. Like, that's some made up shit.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's like, I don't believe in made up shit. You know? And that's kind of how I see borders. This is just complete, like, it's just made up. Like, we just like literally just said, we're gonna make this up.
It's a power grab.
Yeah, of course.
It's a power thing. That's all it is.
And like, I'm not an anarch. I'm not definitely not an anarchist. Like a lot of libertarians get confused with anarchists. Like I believe in small government. Like my household's the government. Like this is my house. If you said something to piss me off, you're gonna leave. If not, I'm gonna go get my gun and then you're gonna leave.
You're not Antifa.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like I believe in government. I just believe it at a very small level. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I'm probably even a communist. Like in my house, I'm probably communist. You know, but as soon as I get to my neighborhood, I'm more of a socialist. As soon as I get to my county and city, more of a democratic socialist. As soon as I get outside my city and county, I'm a fucking libertarian. You know what I mean?
Because the way the United States was set up was that the state and local governments were like those were where the power was, because that's where
And where it was supposed to be.
where it was supposed to be, and the federal government was supposed to protect that.
Right.
And now it's just all kinds of messed up where the federal government operates kind of like state and local governments, but everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a minute. No,
Just trying to bang a round peg into a square hole, man. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's like, it'd be like, we didn't have a comprehensive policy to the coronavirus. Well, fucking Idaho and New York City don't have a goddamn thing in common with how they should respond to the coronavirus.
Nope.
You know?
Idaho is socially distanced by just sheer by it being Idaho. Yeah, like everybody lives 60 feet apart at the closest. Like, but New York, everybody lives on top of each other. Yeah. So
you just want to let New York make their own policy and like, you know, and like, it's just, I don't know. I think we just overcomplicate things too as a society. The absolutism is overcomplicated. I don't know. I'm gonna let you get the last word because I'm getting sleepy here, and I see you guys yawning. So, what's your last word, Larry the Geek, the Meek, Larry Meek the Geek?
I like Larry the Geek, the Meek.
Larry the Geek with the Meek, like a double D in his name. Like
no, Larry the Geek, the Meek. I think that.
So double D's. Larry the Geek. Oh wow.
Yeah.
The Geek, the
that
Meek.
is powerful.
Yeah. See.
I mean, because Meek has a certain connotation to it too. Like, Meek is kind of that.
The weak, the geek, the meek.
Not the weak.
A lot of people consider Meek to be weak.
Yeah, exactly.
But
the meek shall inherit the earth.
That's right. Don't forget that.
And being geek is chic. So.
So
and I like to climb mountain peaks.
There we go.
There's too many things going on with that.
Okay,
I was going to say geek,
delirium
chic,
is setting in. Delirium.
Yeah.
All right, so Larry the Geek, the Meek, has the final word on the show of the past, present, future of the Geek. So go ahead, the Geek, the Meek.
I think geekdom is here to stay. It's as we see more and more kids grow up in that culture with that mindset, with pop culture being
around. It will be
around.
70% one day, is what you're saying.
I think it's going to. People will start to. I think it's already there. It's just that people don't associate. They don't lay claim to it. I think it'll eventually get there where it is completely okay. Even like the quote manly men are gonna be like, yeah, I'm a geek about or whatever, and they'll lay claim to that whole geek thing. So yeah, I think geek is
So
here
you're
to
cutting
stay.
edge. I mean, being the captain of the
We're
geek.
the trendsetters, yeah.
Yeah, the trendsetters. Larry the Geek, the Meek.
And also, don't forget to watch Everyone Chronicles on Hype Action Fun Times every other Monday at 7 o'clock.
Twitch and YouTube.
He just plugged something that no one can fucking listen to.
I mean, that's kind of how we are right now too. Nobody. We got like one fan.
I think like 12 people listen to this podcast. Yeah, no, like they feel like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, honestly, I do it for myself. I don't do this for anybody else.
Sometimes you just need an outlet.
Yeah. And I've fucking enjoyed all 10 or 12 episodes, whatever it is. But anyways, man, Larry, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys having me.
That was fun, man.
It was fun. I enjoyed this. I like having these conversations.
Yeah, we'll have to bring you back.
Love to come back.
We'll do it. Thanks, man.
All right. You guys have a good night.
Good night.
We hope you enjoyed the show and learned a little something today.